Cheide.
For this 3-minute rules, we'll be looking at the combat phase, and in particular the rules for multiple combats and pursuit. All of this can be found on the large 8th edition rulebook on pages 60 and 61. Multiple combats and pursuit. It can happen that one or more victorious units have defeated several enemies that were engaging them from different sides. When this happens, bear in mind the following points. First, pursuit. Units on the winning side are each only permitted to pursue a single enemy unit that they are in base contact with, and declare this before any flee rolls are made. So in this example, we will say that the High Elves have won this combat. Now before flee rolls are rolled, we can say that the Spearmen will choose to pursue these Thunderers if needed, and that the Prince on Griffin will pursue these Warriors if needed. Were it to be the case after our flee rolls that the only unit fleeing is the Dwarf Thunderers, and that the Dwarf Warriors are in fact remaining in place, then we would have to say this: the High Elves would be unable to pursue these Thunderers, as they would remain in combat with this unit. Were it the case that these Dwarf Warriors were to flee from this combat, in which they were engaged with both the Spearmen and also the Prince on Griffin, then the High Elf player can decide which of the two units they want to choose to pursue first. In this case, the High Elf player may first nominate the Griffin and then the Spearmen, and if the Griffin has Swift Stride, 3d6 in pursuit, and also 2d6 to the Spearmen. Pursuit must be declared before either is rolled. Now, the benefit of pursuing with multiple units is that in case one unit misses, the other unit may be able to catch up. But also there is an advantage of remaining back in the place that you are and not pursuing and letting only one unit chase down the enemy. And that decision on what should be done will be based highly on the context and the strategy of that particular moment in the game. Fleeing units must roll greater than the scores rolled by all of their pursuers in order to get away. If even one of their pursuers equals or beats the fleeing unit's score, then the fleeing unit is cut down and the models are removed as casualties. So in this example, we see that the dwarves who are fleeing have rolled a 6. The Prince on Griffin unfortunately rolled a 3, so he will not be able to catch the pursuers. However, the Spearmen rolled a 7, and they will be able to catch the fleeing dwarf warriors and cut them down. A note on direction of flight. Where there is a choice of foes to flee from, warriors will always be more determined to avoid the most numerous enemy. The controlling player decides the order in which units flee. Let's say in this example that the High Elves have been defeated by the Dwarves, and the High Elves have failed their leadership test, and they are now going to flee from the battlefield. Now they have 2 units that are against them. Over here we have the Warriors with a 3 rank bonus, and over here we have the Thunders with only 1. In the case that this is the more numerous unit, the High Elves will turn in place and flee away from them in the direction of the Thunderers. As in this example, you see that the unit of High Elves were actually fleeing through the unit of Thunderers. In this case, every model in the unit that has fled through the enemy models will have to take a dangerous terrain test. In this case, the High Elves will need to take a total of 29 dangerous terrain tests. On a 1 on a d6, the model suffers 1 wound with no armor saves possible. So a total of 3 wounds suffered, 3 figurines taken out of that unit as they flee. Direction of pursuit. Once all flee moves have been resolved, resolve any pursue moves one at a time. In an order chosen by the controlling player, each pursuer pivots about its center so that it is facing directly towards the fleeing unit of its choice, and then pursues as described earlier. First, let's move the High Elves. First, we nominate the Thunderers on the left and roll off. Let's say that they don't have enough actually to run them down, but they get close. Let's first pivot them and then move them. In addition, we had also nominated our dwarf warriors to attack or to pursue. Unfortunately, now we have another unit that is in the way, so this unit in its pursuit roll will come up short and have to stay 1 inch away from its own unit. So to summarize then, the High Elves are forced to flee because they failed their leadership test, and the Dwarf player now says that they will have both of their units pursue. Unfortunately, the Thunderers rolled very low, so they were unable to actually run down the High Elves, and because they got in the way, then the second roll was not able to connect with the Dwarf Warriors. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this 3-minute rules on the combat phase and multiple combats and pursuit. Thank you for joining us here today at Grey Army Gaming for the future of fantasy.